Pink Cloud Radio 64 in this whole dichotomy of life and really everything that's been going on since our conjecture last week. It's been different. Not difficult really, but different. When you talk about bad and good, like I said, I can't separate myself from it, but it's like walking on eggshells in life. Or being relatively taciturn. It has to go with both of these, you know. You have to go. You know, you can't walk on eggshells your entire life. You can't. You know, you have to change that. You have to understand that all those broken shards are not broken shards, you know. Sometimes they are, but they're not the kind of broken shards that most people would be appreciative of. Especially when you're talking about something like those kind of thoughts, the kind of things that make you believe something, you know. When you walk on eggshells or you're being taciturn in that way, you're kind of taking parts of your life and denying others in a lot of ways. And I think that's what I've learned about what it means to, I don't know, what it means to have everything in a way. And I guess like having tactics in life, you know. But when you're taciturn, you're reserved of speech, you know. You kind of reserve yourself, you know, public display of reserval, you know. But the thing is, nobody else does that. In a lot of ways, when you're being relatively taciturn or you're walking on eggshells, you're kind of planting yourself in a position of, well, anybody can do anything above this if they're able. To my own ability and conquest, I believe everyone will do this then, though. I believe everyone will walk on eggshells and be relatively taciturn. It's a nice ideal to live in. It really is. I mean, I give you credit for actually wanting to persuade people to be the same way. That you're doing the exact same thing that everybody else is condemning in ways. And not only condemning, but there's a ton of people out there who would rather be in control of you. And that's what it means to have these kind of walking on eggshells mentality than having to go. Because you can't, you know, you hold the, you know, you have the right to reserve your speech, but at the same time that means someone else can plow it out on you and push their speech onto you. You know, and have that kind of relatively taciturn mood that you're created, or walking on eggshells, where you can prove yourself, you know, in that effect. You can prove yourself. Yes, you may be the only voice for yourself, but that is not a bad thing. That's the one thing that I've learned about a lot of things about walking on eggshells and, you know, being relatively taciturn is that's why most people do it, because they don't think anybody else would represent them. You know, that's why people reserve their right to speak. I'm not talking about in court of law when they're arrested. It's just in general. When it has nothing to do with laws or rules or regulations, when it has to do with themselves. But, you know, being a self-owner of your body is not enough. Most people don't even act like they own their own body. And there's no self-ownership, there's no individual. The rest of it is just pure spectacle. Everything else around you is a majority figure. It's the groupthink. And that's where everything gets lost, because you don't see it as an individual cause anymore, individual person. And that's what I mean by being, those things have to go. Because if you truly want to have anybody care about you, you have to care about your own self in that way. The self of what your image is, you know, and not only what your image is, what your mental state is when you're there. Where does it matter? What does it matter, you know? Because it wouldn't matter if you're going to just say, well, I could reserve all my speech. Well, if you're going to reserve your speech every single day of your life, you know, it's basically at that point, you have nothing to say. You never did. But maybe you have a lot to say and you're ignoring it. More than you think, you know, because a lot of people say, like, I learned a lot just by watching and listening. True. But sometimes you have to learn by saying. You know. I've had friendships where I've done it all. Where I've done one-sided friendships where I lessened, where I've done everything in one way, and it works out. I'm not saying, there isn't any speaking from me at all, because there is. But there's a lot of things where you have a mental state that is capable of only so much. And I think the world we are in is a harsh one. You can't let sentiment blind you. A lot of people say that. Sentiment can kill as a falling rock. I disagree with this statement. But that's because it's from one of the books I read recently, the Mist books. Like I said, the world we are in is a harsh one. You can't let sentiment blind you. I don't agree with this statement because I don't think sentiment's always blind. I think a lot of people assume that they blind. Using emotions, feelings, sensitivities, any of those things, they blind you. Maybe they don't blind you. Maybe what blinds you is not doing those things. Because you're being blinded to the sentiment. You're being blinded to the emotion, to the pile driver of what is directed in the middle of it. Well, what creates sentiment? Well, it's because of who gets hurt. Who gets hurt? You're going to ignore who gets hurt because sentiment blinds you? How does it blind you? You're looking right in the middle of something and seeing who's getting hurt. So how does sentiment exactly blind you? I'm just curious. Because you see those people getting hurt. That's why you have sentiment. So your sentimentality has to go away, or is blinding you to what? To the violence? No, it's not. To the death? No, it's not. To the things around you? No. Because you can see from the people who are getting hurt, right in the sentimental part of it, that everything else around it is the cause. It's not only one thing, Sentiment blinds you. Don't worry. No. You can't. Sentiment is blinding you. This is what's happening, actually. Because people want to defend themselves with that kind of statement. Defend their actions. They want to defend the deaths of people. They want to defend the deaths of the world. With world wars. With everything around where we have just cause to go into things. No, we don't. Because we might as well just say there was just cause for the 300 Native Americans that died at Wounded Knee in the 1800s. Or the Salem witch trials. We could look at anything in those past years and see those kind of things. Then no one came to anybody else's rescue, but we go to everybody else's rescue. The only difference between the societies as we've been attacking is because they don't keep anything in secret. They kill people right in the public. We do it in secret. We're congratulated for it. What a wonderful thing. What's the most 10 corrupt nations secretly? Well, it'd be the top one would be the top dog in the world right now. Because in secret, if you rule in secret and do bad things in secret, you're fine. You're a good country, nice people over there. If you do it in the public, you're horrible. You're the worst kind of person in the world. You shouldn't show that to the world. Why not? The whole world has to know what you're doing. I prefer that. I'd prefer that because at least people wouldn't have the granted permission to ignore it. What creates ignorance is bliss. Well, I'll tell you what creates it. You having secrets. Your country, your world having secrets. If you want people to not be ignorant, don't give them the option to be. Show them everything. Do it directly, in front of them. Looking at them, As in Apocalypse Now and Heart of Darkness. You have that kind of procedure. Do it to me directly. No lying morality. Show me what you're doing. The world is a harsh one. Well, show me where it's harsh. Show me exactly where it's harsh. Because I highly doubt it's only harsh in one place. I highly doubt it's only harsh where you show me in the evening news. Don't let sentiment blind you. I'm not. I'm letting your secrets blind me to the truth. But I'm not letting you. Sentiment can kill as a falling rock. I don't agree with that. Sentiment doesn't kill like a falling rock. You know what kills like a falling rock? A falling rock. Or drones. Drone strikes. That's what kills. Sentiment hardly kills. Now, people who don't like sentiment would kill the people who do get sentimental. So yes, sentiment can kill, but it can only kill because of that falling rock. The falling rock from somebody else's position of power. That's the sentiment that can kill. Is that people don't like it when you're actually sentimental and use your emotions. That's why they say, well, that's a baseless accusation. You're only crying about it. And that's a baseless accusation. No, it's not. I have evidence to prove my facts right here. If you want to take them to court, let's do it, you know. But most people don't. They just say, you know, as with most things that have happened over the past kosher years of life, if it's true that all these things are just libel, are just words, and, you know, saying bad things about people, everybody could be in jail right now that's been speaking out of turn towards our government, towards anything in the world. But nobody goes to jail because they don't want to take the responsibility to go to the courtroom for it. And to be actually put in accusations where we could bring evidence to the table that is there, that's already been there for years, to prove that they are lying. You know, people aren't ready for that kind of change. They're used to, you know, the bad things of life. You know, the fruits of our nature, so to speak. But the fruits of our nature is the exact problem. The falling rock syndrome of saying sentiment is falling rock is a joke. It makes feelings, emotion sensitivities look bad. But it doesn't mean they are bad. It just sounds them out as being bad. I've never experienced sentiment in that way, where it's been a bad thing. In fact, it's helped me through more things than any actual person that actually has said that to me. Actually has said something as a baseless accusation towards emotions. That's a baseless accusation. Is blaming emotions for things that you don't want to take responsibility for. It's all together and before. Wished you never left and it came before you dropped out. Let's be together so your wishes are not brought out of evil. I thought about that quote. I wrote that a while ago, but it kind of draws back to what I've been feeling for a while. That, you know, it's all together and before, you know. Meaning that what has happened here is entangled with what happened before. But not in the way of saying the past is what's happening now. Or like, you know, everything in the past is going to be continuing to happen. To a certain extent that's true, but all that stuff that happened before is altogether before. That's what it means too, is that anything that you can bring up from the past, spring up, used to distract, used to, you know, kind of avoid the confrontation, is the problem. Because you're using altogether and before to emphasize now. But you can't. You can't do that forever. You know, you can try, but that's how, personally, that's how you lose me as a friend. Because it shows how much evil you've succumbed to. The evil of using influence of what has happened before to create an image of what, you know, to create a hostile image of me, of yourself, of anything, of anyone. And I think that's what it really does. You know, you wished you never left and it came before you dropped out. You know, and that's true. That's where I should have done something. That's blaming myself. Where I should have said, hey, I wish it all came before you dropped out. But you dropped out. You know, you decided to drop out. No one else told you to. I didn't tell you to. I hardly tell people to drop out. Now, I'm not saying I haven't dropped out. Yes, I have. But I've dropped out because it wasn't too late. It was too early and too late. It was both. But it was also that I could have stuck with things, except it's like here, you know, let's be together so your wishes are not brought out of evil. Meaning that anything you've wished for, if you're using it to kind of make a statement about the other person, you know, if you're trying to just label the other person, you're using it in an evil method to just say, ha, I'm just going to be sarcastic and irritated with you, and I don't want to hear this anymore. You know, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I think that's where what I meant by that what can happen can be unwilled, but it's a choice. You know, it has to do with willpower at that point. Is your willpower enough there to continue this, or are you just going to be like, well, fuck this, I don't need to be with this person, he's an asshole or she's an asshole, or I'm irritated by this person, I just want to make fun of him, you know, or her, whatever. If that's your action, it doesn't mean that you're wrong, because I've done that too, probably. Maybe not even directly. Maybe I've done it to a point where I didn't understand that I was being that naive about what kind of stuff I'm saying versus what I'm doing. But that means that I actually am not in the right place anymore. You know, especially if I'm doing that. I have to get out of there. I have to get out of there because there's nothing left for me in there that makes me want to see it with value. Especially if I don't notice it. You know, that I'm not treating it with value. And I think that's what really happens sometimes with friendships or anything. In that, like what Magnolia asked me the last time, one of the times recently at work, she asked, like, oh, do you want to get married? I mean, I thought about that more, but I'm not going to just marry somebody, you know? I mean, that's kind of dumb, actually. If I just went out and married somebody, that doesn't make much sense, you know? I actually want to be with somebody, you know, and that's going to take time. I'm not going to just like, hey, you know, I'll do this, you know? And I think that's the problem. Like, I've seen a lot of people, like, take that way out. Like, just use marriage as a means, you know, to an end. To me, I want to actually be with somebody, but I want to be with that person. That means, that doesn't just mean be with them in a physical, you know, house or apartment or whatever we're living in. It actually means I want to be with that person, so I have to get to know them in that way. You know, in the way of actually knowing them. If I wanted to have a stranger, you know, I'd get a mail order bride or something, you know. I do things in that way, but I don't care to do things in that way. I want to actually be with somebody. I don't want to just like, if I wanted that, I could just keep my stuffed animals. I don't need anything else. And I think that's what I've learned. I've learned to see that what can happen between these things, especially what I've seen about, you know, what you can see from what has happened in the past, it can affect what will happen. And it can affect it in a big way, you know, and make it affect your personality in that way. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, you know. I don't know exactly. Because it matters how you take it. It matters what you take from it. What you take from what's happening. You kill people because you need them so much. I think that's true. You kill people because you need them so much. I've kind of felt that with a lot of situations in the world as of recent, I guess you could say. And in a lot of ways, that's that's what's been happening. People have been dying because they're needed. You know, I mean, what do you think the military is? People are needed in the military. You know, and it's all a lot of poor people that do it. You know, it's not the rich elitists that are sending out all their family members and everybody. No, it's a lot of poor people. It is. Literally, they have no choice. All the other jobs hardly survive with. And some are just not able to survive with that kind of money. They need something more, and the military offers that. It's great that they have that offer, but to be frank about it, that shows how dismal this place is. To only have one option to create any kind of exploitorious future lifestyle that will change things is through only one means of production shows exactly what we're thought of. You know, valueless in many ways, because a lot of vets aren't treated well. A lot of vets aren't treated well by our government and by the people in general. So, I mean, right then and there, you're showing exactly what kind of stepping ladder we're stepping on. We're gonna fall off that stepping ladder. You know, there isn't no stepping ladder anymore. People steal it from under you. And I think that's what really shows the dastardly deeds where people like say that, you know, all these conspiracies can't be true. Well, they can be true. All of them can be true. That's a scary thing. You know, all of them can be true. You know, I'm scared of that. You know, if they are all true, damn, you know, that says a lot. That says a lot, and it shows a lot about the personalities of people, that they're willing to sacrifice every truth of those kind of stories to change things for their own personal surrender to the people who've done it. You know, I mean, slaves did it. After the Civil War ended, the people who owned slaves still worked in the positions of power. The ones who were there when the slavery was going on were still there. Nothing actually changed in that form. The only thing that changed was who the slave masters were. You know? And there was no facial impression of slavery. Now it's just money and what's valued and what's not valued. But that's the whole issue, is that people feel valued, except when other people turn against it. Then they say, hey, why'd you do that? Slaves did that too. They put down other slaves for saying, you know, for running off, for trying to escape. So we live in the same kind of society where if you try to speak against things that are, apropos as such, you're kind of showing, to the other people that, hey, there's something else here besides what you guys want to see. And people will put you down for that. That's what it truly means, I think, especially with conspiracies, that's what it really stands for. It doesn't really mean anything else. You don't have to use the word conspiracy. You can use the word of just keeping things in secret. Compartmentalization, those kind of things that help to fundamentally strike our own ignorance up and make us feel like, hey, we could just be ignorant towards that because it's happening in secret, it's not happening in front of us, so we don't need to take that, step forward into understanding it or knowing it or acknowledging it. We don't need to because they're keeping it secret from us. And I think that's what the difference is between what another country has done. For example, when they shoot people in the Middle East or something, and they shoot people dead in the streets, sometimes with the whole city there at the, in the main area. So they actually do things right in the middle of everybody so that they see, hey, this is the power we have over you. But our country doesn't do that. And that doesn't make us better, actually. It means that we're keeping it in secret. The power that we have, we keep it in secret. Just like behind closed doors family members. What they do to their kids. Rape, molestation, abuse. Any one of those. It doesn't have to be all of them together. It could be one or the other. So it shows that behind closed doors, secrets are good. We've gotten used to that idea, that mental state. So, everybody puts down everybody else. But the thing is, you've done it to yourself. You've allowed these kind of secrets to allow everything that's going on, And everybody says, like, why don't you fight against this, guys? Because you're not. You're going along with the system as it is. You want people to fight against this stuff? Well, then stop letting secrets happen like this. Stop being ignorant to them. Because once you're ignorant to one secret, you're ignorant to all of them. That's what I've learned about it, especially. That, all these people who want to fight for people's rights, for no more violence against women, against dogs, against animals, this kind of stuff. The things that I've learned is that if you truly want that to stop, you have to stop stopping yourself. That's it. That means you have to stop it completely and allow all this stuff to come out. If you don't allow all this stuff to come out and really get into your depths, you're not going to change a single damn thing. Because it's going to continue to be, you're going to continually put the process to just continue a little still to get closer to the truth. But it'll never get to the truth because they'll always loop you right back to the beginning. And I think that's what I mean by, you kill people because you need them so much. It's true. You need people to think that way. So you need people around that think that way. So that they continually make it go in circles like that. So that you never get to a choice or a real answer. That could be there. I'm not being pushy, I'm patient. There we go. I've heard that statement before. I think it's funny. Because it kind of says that, when somebody's patient, they can actually be probably the most impatient. Or at least be pushy about their patience. Like, hey, I'm patient, but I think it's funny. Because it kind of shows that kind of, I think in a lot of ways people acknowledge that people have contradictions, but the thing is they acknowledge it too easily. Just like that statement. I'm not being pushy, I'm patient. Well, what does that mean? That means that people allow contradictions to happen. But I think that's what really is one of the issues, is that if we allow contradictions to happen, that's one of the main reasons why conspiracies or secrets that are kept in the dark from ourselves, even though they're right in the open and they're not in the dark, we're just leaving them in the dark for ourselves because we don't want to deal with them. And I think that's what a contradiction really is. If we allow the spirit of our character to grow with contradictions in that form, it's just as bad as saying like, oh, well, they're just, they're, that person, you know them well. And that's that's all we need to know to confirm how we feel. To confirm how we feel and how we are, and to just allow it. Is to just say, you know how that person is, you know how you are, that kind of stuff. You just continually subjugate yourself to those kind of little sentences of life, and just sort of say, oh, this is it. But then there's more actually, but you want to ignore that part. It is a choice. Truly it is, made the choice of jealousy and envy compared to feelings for me. That's what I have definitely seen. I'll be directly honest about it. Jealousy and envy. Oh, do I hate him. But not like hate in that way. I mostly just see no value in them. I do see some value in the fact that they do exist, and there is some points where it makes sense to do it. I think there's a lot of points where it makes sense to feel those ways, but the thing is, there's also many points where it's not necessary at all. For example, December 2011, I was hanging out with, go back to my number 26, which has its own playlist, the Pink Cloud. It's an important one because it shows the big contradiction the next day, which I didn't talk about on there, but what happened the next day was I talked to Christina on my Facebook, and she had said, oh, do you have feelings for friend Catherine there? What happened was, and this is weird, but it's something I learned about, especially about making the choice of jealousy and envy, where you insistently keep it a secret that you have made that choice of jealousy and envy compared to feelings, but you always ask everybody else about their feelings first because you want to seem like a good person. You want to seem like you're not going to be judgmental about feelings, at least. Yes, you're not judgmental about feelings, but all of a sudden, after you get that answer about those feelings, the jealousy and envy come out like nothing. Prat! Right in the face. And that's what happened with Christina. So, truly, my friendship with her probably died that day. For me, personally, it didn't. Like, I wish it had, but it continued until the end. Because even until not seeing her anymore, because to me, I was trying to be a friend to her, but it didn't matter. The mistakes I made, I guess, were there. If you want to consider them mistakes, I don't know. I mean, that's up to you guys, because everybody can do things differently. So, it's really very much individual based, it is. Sadly, I could never say if I truly did anything wrong. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't at all. So this is going to be hard. I'm speaking for a term of nothing. I'm not speaking for terms of endearment, to want something in return, to want some kind of, comfort zone kind of thing. That doesn't matter. There has to be an answer, though. There has to be an answer in that way, because the only answer was conflict. That's the thing. And maybe that is an answer. Maybe having that conflict with Christina, for example, was the answer. But the thing is, when people, it goes back to what truly happened at the end, which is she didn't want me. And so she wanted me to chase her even though she did not want me. No thanks. I'm sorry, but I don't chase somebody who doesn't want me. You showed you didn't want me at that point. And that's fine. But you can't tell me to do something when I know you're not going to be there after. I'm not going to, And I think that's where a lot of people say, I want you to feel my pain, kind of attitude. But the thing is, why? Your pain happened way before something like that happened, actually. In fact, your pain happened before you even met me. So for me to feel your pain wouldn't change me wanting to be with you or not. Wouldn't change how I reflect upon you at all. Because now you're just glutton for punishment. You're a glutton for punishing, not a glutton for punishment. You're a glutton for punishing everybody. And that's your choice. Because now you're going to do that to everybody. Because why? Because you experienced pain? Well, that's your choice, to put it on other people, in that way. To experience pain and use it against other people is the worst decision I would think anybody ever makes. Now, to experience that pain and try to understand it and establish something better for yourself, or establish something to get an understanded point to everybody else. Because not everybody understands things the same way, so you will have to be able to learn to excuse other people when they don't learn. You have to. If you don't want to, then you're basically saying I could hurt anybody. You know, and I'm because they understood that. You know, it's the old idea. You know, if you should have known better. Well, what if they didn't? What if they didn't know better? You're telling a person to know better, and you're upset with them because they didn't? That means you know better. And that means you didn't want to go with knowing better. That you want them to know better still. And I think a lot of people do that sometimes. Like, until they learn, I'm going to keep on burn. I'm going to keep on burn. You know, and it's true. A lot of people do that. And I think that's what it really means to be jealousy, to have jealousy and envy, you know, compared to feelings for me, you know. If you truly have feelings for somebody, you're not going to use jealousy and envy to box them up or to be cumbersome with them or to create more issues. If you want to do that, that's fine. But do that on your own time with yourself, if you truly have to. Because if you're just going to push on other people and say, you have to feel this way too, well, no they don't. Actually, especially if you're with somebody, you shouldn't be doing that to them. You know, if you want that kind of control over somebody, it means you're not looking for a relationship with love. You're looking for a relationship with control and power. And that's all you want. They have answered our problems with all the entertainment and unimportant to drive us away from the power and control they take. They have answered our problems, right? We can ignore that other stuff, right? Because with all the entertainment and unimportant to drive us away, it drives us away from the issues. And it truly does. It drives us away from the issues. It drives us away from changing our lives with something important. And it makes pretty much, you know, we have to wait for all the system that has done accordingly to, you know, drive us away to have the power and control that they take away. They decide it. You know, we don't. We may be able to represent ourselves. We may be able to use that jurisdiction for our own benefit too in that way. But it's a small, you know, it's a small sand pebble that really counts. That really doesn't count much, because it only counts when you're there. It doesn't count when you're outside of the system or inside the system, but, you know, taken as an individual that's not represented for are valueless. You know, we as humans are valueless in a system like this. If we had no system, we'd be the most valued and cherished for ourselves, because we would take care of our territories and do it on our own. But as long as we are, you know, paying taxes and paying bills to other people that do the work for us, we're valueless. Even the people who do the work are valueless, because they're doing the exact same thing somewhere else. They have the exact same story as I do somewhere else. So we're all valueless. We're all paper thin. Because we have no representation. No true representation. We have representation, so supposedly. But I don't feel represented from anybody that's in the power system right now. Even in my own state. My own personal quadrant of life has nothing to benefit me. Only very little benefits that are there. Enough to survive. But that's going a long ways away, exactly. Because that's going to end soon too. Sadly, if you don't fight for something, it's going to be taken away at some point. And that's the thing about it. If you truly have something free, if you live in freedom, supposedly, then you wouldn't have to fight for something at all. You wouldn't need to be, you know, suppose we live in a civilization. I don't think we do. We're not civilized. Rules, laws, regulations, prisons, they don't make us civilized. We have to have those by ourselves. We can't expect everybody else to court the issue for us. We have to be able to do that for ourselves and be civilized on our own. So we're not civilized here. This isn't not a civilization. It's a broken bit of stone that's left alone. And if not left alone, destroyed at home. And I think that's what really drives us away and makes the power and control they take. You know, because, well, it doesn't matter what they do as long as we have entertainment and unimportant things to do. Unimportant things to do. Then we're good. We're happy. We have nothing else to worry about. But that's the thing about it. That's the thing about a lot of this stuff where we look for representation through everything. You're looking for love to be represented for? Ha! Forget about it. Let it go. Wait. You're waiting for somebody else to represent your love? Boy, do you have a void in your life. It's true, though. It's sadly true. A lot of people look for love to be represented for. And you must really have a big void, because why would you look for love in that way? But they have that choice, you know. But it doesn't matter if they don't give us an answer to problems. It matters if they give us an answer to problems to avoid them. To stop looking at them. So you give us entertainment and unimportant things to do. Well, then we're fine. We don't need to concentrate on those problems anymore. Thank you so much. Wow. And that's all you need. You know, they give us all those options to avoid the problems. But how do you change anything or fix your life if you're not able to look at the problems and try to fix them directly, looking at them? How do you fight off your problems if you're not working on them? Distractions and media and all around. It's true. How do you fight off your problems if you're not working on them? That's what I mean by what I just said. You know, they have answered our problems. Yeah, but that's the thing. How do you fight off your problems if you're not working on them? You know, if you're not working on your problems, how do you expect them to go away? How do you expect them to change? Well, you can do it the easy way. The entertainment and unimportant will drive you away, and no worries on the power and control that they're taking away from you and doing it for themselves. You know, no worries about that. You have the entertainment and unimportant, the distractions, the media, and the all around to keep you on base and tone, and everything stays alone. You know, if you want to learn about your life, you have to fight off your problems yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to do it, because they never will. They'll create more problems for you. That's what I mean by all this stuff about being against government. They'll create more problems for you. Because it's a system that's attached to a system of a slice, of a world that we've seen already fall, of the Roman Empire that fell, of every system that fell. From the Greeks that created it, where Plato had to run away before it was initiated. I mean, if people have to run away from a system like that, what does that say about the system? You know? And I think that's what really is shown here. How do you fight off your problems? They're going to make more problems for you. You have to fight off your own problems, you know? If you're able to maintain your life in some form or another, on your own terms, this means you have to work on your problems. Sorry, you know, sorry. It's just a little bit of a thing there, you know. There are a ton of people out there who have physical disabilities and still work on their problems. Physical, mental disabilities, and still work on their problems more than you. More than you. You know, I'm sitting here going, man, more than you, really? And what do? You use that distraction pretty well. You use the answers they give you, the entertainment and the unimportant, to fix your issues. Yes, of course, because that stuff fixes it all, buddy. Woo! You! But I'm not an issue of having to say that I don't fight off my own problems. I do. You know? Because I know that there's only going to be more problems created after the fact, or before the fact, or during the fact. So I have to fight off my own problems just to see the other problems that are not created by me even. So the problems that I personally have, they're gone, wished away. But not wished away, more whisked away, because they saw the exact retribution, the initial fact of who I am, to say, hey, you can't create problems for me. And that's it, you know. This isn't about, you know, using somebody else's self-defense for my own. I don't need a self-defense mechanism. I'm here. Are you? Are you going to be here, or are you going to use a self-defense mechanism to prove your point? Get your sarcastic, cynical ass out of here. Unless you want to deal with this and be crystal clear. And that's how I feel about it. But I know the same initial fact would be that no one else does. Well then, congratulations. You get the ball rolling that way. Out of my way. And it just goes back to rape in the military even. I think this is a good one to end on. Rape in the military. All that comes from abuse and the instincts to be a hunter. A hunter. See, this is the one thing that we learn in a system. We forget about all the rest of the stuff that we are. We forget the fact that we're animals. We forget the fact that we have to use our instincts and sensibilities and everything together. But see, the thing is, we've learned the opposite effect. We've learned how bad is good. So this means that with your hunter instincts, you will now do anything you please. Why do you think there's so much rape in the world? Why do you think there's so much abuse? And behind closed doors, everything occurs that is, very, very vulgar. But see, that's what makes it okay. In that form. It may not seem okay. Everybody may be, bashing it and, bitterly vexed by it. But they're not. They're not. If they truly were, they wouldn't agree with this system anymore. They would have gone away from it a long time ago. Their ignorance is keeping them here, of course. But don't worry. That ignorance will not last. At a certain point, it will just die with themselves. You make your own personal hell, you enjoy it your entire life, It's the same reason that I say, with rape in the military, it's huge. The number succumbs every year. It's higher. And that's the whole identity of what people create about being in a place like this. You really start to understand what the fabrication is, what the fabrications are, and by using numbers to settle differences, by saying that not everybody rapes in the military, or that the huge amount of people in the military still outweighs how many are being raped. Well, that doesn't make it okay. That's the whole identity of what the majority in the democracy really hides. It hides everybody else that's being hurt by it. Because the bigger number is, well, we're okay with this. Or we're not the ones doing this. So that's what makes it okay with warfare, with everything else, is that, well, it was just an individual that did it. But it's not just an individual. If you have cameras everywhere of what's happening in the world right now with the wars, you would have a huge amount of people that would disagree with it, like the Vietnam one. But we don't do that anymore. After Vietnam, they said no more cameras. No more cameras because it showed too much bloodshed and too much abuse of our own powers. Of people in the soldier state, or people in higher positions. See, we don't do that anymore because then we personally would see the difference and would not want it anymore. So instead, we're subjugated to ignorance. We're subjugated to not looking at it and looking at it by numbers, numerically speaking, of course. We look at that and that's fine. The numerical statistics of rape in the military. Just having that henceforth there in the military should be bad enough. But it isn't. You have to have a number represented by it, a number that's less than the actual amount of people in the military, which makes it, well, that proves that it's not too bad. Oh, well, wonderful. Rape at all, rape is pretty bad, but, it's not that bad when more people are not doing it. So that's what really counts there. So I tell you this 50 times over. And I think that's what really is the debasement of our culture now. We use math, statistics, science, all these things to defend our quiet. To defend our quiet. That's all we do. We defend our quiet through those means. When math actually is just a used spectrum in the stock market scheme to derive qualities of economic fall and growth, which are conducted through those means too, subjugated through the Federal Reserve Bank, whether they go up or down. And just as much, you have science, which has now distrusted fellow workers in the scientific community to say they're not worth science. That's not science. That's not worthy science. They vote for it, and it goes down the toilet. Groupthink. Motherfucker, that's it. So, in fact, we've now infringed the freedoms of many people by doing that. If you allow one side, you allow nothing else. And that's it. But you use the side that can benefit you. The beneficiary will get a huge amount. The rest of the people, scrounge them down. So I think that's what really I've learned. That in our society, until there's value in the investments where you could get something out of it, nobody's going to do it. Tesla to Edison. Which one would you pick? I'd pick Tesla. Because, to be honest, there's other ways to use people. You'll find it, don't worry. You don't even need money to do it. You don't even need investments to do it. You'll find a ton of ways to use people. You did it before. You really think there's no other way? But, no, don't worry. This is where truly the thing's gonna come to an end or come to a beginning. And if you want it to come to a beginning, don't worry. The beginning will be very quick, too. Have a good life with that, guys. Because now I've learned, just like rape in the military numbers. that you're walking on eggshells your entire life. You're relatively taciturn. Yes, you are. And the sad part is that you're the exact person that got raped in the military. All of you are. I'm that person too. I never was in the military, but I'm telling you that that's the whole point of this. If you're walking on eggshells and you're relatively taciturn, where does your life matter? If you're the one that got hurt. Take care, guys. Love.